Z community cuties, if you watched last week's video, we were talking about the comparison between buying the house that you live in or owning the place that you live in versus renting the place that you live in. This week, we're going to be talking about the comparison between financing, leasing, or buying a car outright. So without further ado, let's get this party started. Alright, so a couple of points that we're going to discuss today are very similar to what we discussed last week's video. Number one, why this is an argument in the first place, comparing all three options when it comes down to getting a car, and last but not least, concluding which option is ultimately the best option for whipping it. I know that was terrible, but yo, like, I'm a millennial, allow me guys, chill. Now, let's just say that you watched my video a few weeks back about whether a car is a good investment or not, and you're like, you know what? This guy, I'm still gonna get a car anyway. Okay, you know what? Do your thing, fair game. But there's really three ways that you can go about this: financing, leasing, or buying a car outright. So financing a car is when you're putting a down payment on it, you make monthly payments for a certain amount of time, and at the end of the day, the car is yours. Leasing is a very similar structure on the other hand, where you make monthly payments for a car for a specific amount of time, sometimes associated with the down payment, or should I say most of the time, but the end result is different. You actually have to return the car back to the dealership, or you pay the difference and the car is all yours. And last but not least, buying the car outright, pretty self-explanatory. You bring a briefcase full of $5 bills to the dealership and you're like, yo, let me buy this. Now, obviously, my conclusion is really going to depend on, the brand, the year, the clicks on the whip, and, things like that. But this is going to be a general overview, so don't be attacking me in the comments. Arigatou gozaimashita. Now, I do want to make a very brief comparison between the three options. I know I kind of did just like 2 minutes ago, but I want to kind of go into it with more depth. Now, let's just say with your financing or leasing options, keep in mind that your monthly payments are going to be with interest. Whereas buying the car outright, you just pay the money, you get the whip, and that's it. Another difference that not a lot of people really tell you on the internet nowadays is when it comes down to leasing. This could actually be written off on your tax returns. Not on your personal ones, so don't get all too happy about it, but on your actual business tax returns. But only under the condition that you need it to actually conduct business, such as you're going on client meetings, you actually need the whip to do construction, landscaping, things like that. So that is a very big advantage that financing and buying the car outright does not offer you. Obviously, the other tax benefits, such as writing off your gas, writing off, I guess repairs and maintenance? I don't even know. But I can tell you gas for sure, you can write that shit off. And I think the last noteworthy mention here is when it comes down to maintenance, when it comes down to repairs, you don't have to worry about shit. You just bring it to the dealership, you tell them what the problem is, they fix the problem, and not a dime comes out of your pocket. Whereas financing and buying outright, guess what? If you need to do this, you gotta go to the mechanic yourself, pay out of pocket. And I think the last noteworthy mention to compare all three of these options, actually, believe it or not, is car depreciation, which we talked about in the last video. So within the first 4 months of having a brand new car, you lose 60% of its value. Okay, I want you to keep that in mind. So let's just say, for example, that you decided to buy a brand new car outright, or you decided to finance it. When you're financing it, you're basically, those monthly payments that you make, you're basically paying for that 60% of depreciation. Buying the car outright, on the other hand, and it's brand new, my guy, I'm sorry, but you could have made a better choice and decision with your money. Because within those first 4 years, 100% of the cash you put into the car, you just lost 60% of it within 4 years. That's 20% a year, and honestly, my dude, if you can make that back in the stock market, by all means, but chances are, it's gonna be tough to make that consistently within 4 years. So that's where we come to our actual conclusion of which of these options is the best hammer. I'm gonna tell you, if I personally had to rank these three options from, best to least, I would have to say that leasing is first, buying outright is second, and then financing I would have to classify as, you're better off without it. My personal reason for it is mainly three things that we kind of just discussed. Number one, repairs and maintenance, it's not on you. Number three, You get a new car every 4-5 years, depending on when your leasing term is. And lastly, if I'm a business owner who actually has to see clients and things like that, it's a basic write-off. The reason why I put buying outright in second place is mainly because of one thing and one thing only, which is car depreciation. Now, it really depends on the situation too here, right? If you're going to be buying a car that is brand new, I would say don't buy outright. But if you're buying a car that's 5 years old, 6 years old, by all means do your thing. Like, that's the sweet spot in my opinion. But once you start looking at cars that are 10 years older or more, then it becomes a situation of, yo, like, is it even worth it? I'll kind of touch up on this point in a couple of more minutes because I have this graphic that I want to kind of explain to you guys. But lastly, financing, when it comes down to this, I just don't think it's worth it whatsoever. Because at the end of the day, it's basically like a student loan where you have a huge amount of cash and then you have to pay that off. You're basically chained to this car. You are chained to this car and there's no going back. Even after your financing term is gone, you just have the car and it's like,
what do I do now? There's only 10% of the car left. I'm gonna sell this at a loss. What am I gonna do?
So it kind of puts you in a sticky situation. Now, circling back to buying the car outright, I want to show you guys this graph real quick. All right, so check out this chart that I just pulled up. It shows you the normalized car depreciation over 20 years. So as you can see at year 0, we have 100% of the car's value is there. But when it gets down to year 20, then we're almost at that 0% point of value. Now, here's what I would personally do. I would personally get a car, buy it outright when it's around 4 years old or 5 years old. Because when a car is 4 years old, it's lost only about 50% of its value. Now then, what would I do? I would then end up driving the car for, 4 or 5 years, and that ends up pushing us at a car age of, let's just say, 8 years, 9 years. When a car is 8 or 9 years respectively, it's lost about 80% of its value overall. But from the time that you got it until the time that you decide that it's time to actually sell the car, it's only lost 20 to 30% of value. And this is what I would personally do. I would end up selling a car when it's 9, 10 years old, and then that's pretty much it. Because me, I personally look at things in percentages and numbers all the time. It just doesn't really make financial sense for me to buy a car outright, have it lose 60+% of the value that I put in, when there is an option for me to only lose 20% instead. Let's just say that you drive a car for the first 5 years and it loses 50% of its value. Looking on an average year to year, you've lost 10% every single year. People struggle to make that shit in the stock market, you feel me? But versus what my personal game plan would be of buying it at 4 or 5 years old and keeping it for 4 or 5 years, driving it, and selling it, you only lose 20 to 30% worst case scenario. Now, comparing this option and considering worst case scenario, 30% depreciation. If we drive this thing for 5 years, that's depreciation of 6% a year. Now, that gives you an extra 4% of money saved up in your pocket, and less capital or less money is required for you to buy this car. So I hope this really did make sense for you guys. If you have any questions about anything we discussed in today's video, let me know in the comments section down below. I love hearing from you guys. Without further ado, it's your boy Azizz signing out. Peace.